All right, folks. So, as promised earlier, I'm going to start with the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book, and I'm going to start with Chapter 1, Bill's story. War fever ran high in New England town, to which we knew young officers from Plattsburgh were assigned, and were flattered when the first citizens took to their homes, making us feel heroic. Here was love, applause, war, moments sublime with intervals hilarious. I was part of a life at last, and in the midst of excitement I discovered liquor. I forgot the strong warnings and the prejudices of people concerning drink. In time we sailed over there. I was very lonely, and again turned to alcohol. We landed in England. I visited Winchester Cathedral. Much moved, I wandered outside. My attention was caught and dogged on an old tombstone. Here lies a Hampshire grenadier who caught his death drinking cold small beer. A good old soldier is ne'er forget, whether it died by the musket or by the pot. Omnious warning, which I failed to heed. 22 and a veteran of foreign wars, I went home at last. I fancied myself a leader, for not the men of my battery giving me a special token of appreciation. My talent for leadership, I imagine, would place me at the head of vast enterprises, which I would manage with the utmost assurance. I took a night law course and obtained employment as an investigator for a surety company. The drive for success was on. I'd proved to the world I was important. My work took me about Wall Street, and little by little I became interested in the market. Many people lost money, but some became very rich. Why not I? I studied economics and business as well as law. As well as law. As well as law. As well as a law course, and at one of the finals I was too drunk to think or write. Thinking my drinking was not yet continuous, it disturbed my wife. We had long talks when I would still her forebodings by me telling her that men of genius conceived their best projects when drunk, that the most majestic constructions of philosophical thought were so derived. By the time I had completed the course, I knew the law was not for me. The living maelstrom of Wall Street had me in its grip. Business and financial leaders were my heroes. Out of this ally of drink and speculation, I commerced to forge the weapon that one day would turn in flight like a boomerang and all but cut me to ribbons. Living modestly, my wife and I had saved $1,000. It went into certain securities that cheap and rather unpopular. I rightly imagined that they would someday have a great rise. I failed to persuade my broker friends to send me out looking over factories and managements, but my wife and I decided to go anyway. I had developed a theory that most people lost money in stocks through ignorance of markets. I discovered many more reasons later on. We gave up on our positions and we roared on a motorcycle. The sidecar was stuffed with tents, blankets, and a change of clothes, and 3 huge volumes of financial reference service. Our friends thought a lunacy commission should be appointed. Perhaps they were right. I had some success at speculation, so had a little money, but once worked on a farm for a month to avoid drawing on our small capital. That was the last honest manual labor on my part for many of days. We covered the whole eastern United States in a year. At the end of it, my reports to Wall Street procured me a position that the use of a large expense account. The exercise of an option brought in more money, leaving us with a profit of several $1,000s for that year. For the next few years, fortune threw money and applause my way. I had arrived. My judgment and ideas were followed by many of the tune of a paper millions. The great boom was in the late 20s, was seething and swelling. Drink was taking an importance, and I was exhilarating part of my life. There was loud talk in the jazz places uptown. Everybody spent in the thousands and chattered in the millions. Scoffers could scoff and be damned. I made the most of my fair-weathered friends. My drinking assumed more serious proportions, continuing all day and almost every night. The remonstrances of my friends terminated in a row, and I became a lone wolf. There were many unhappy scenes in a sumptuous apartment. This had no real infidelity, for my loyalty to my wife, helped at times by extreme drunkenness, kept me out of those scrapes. In 1929, I contracted golf fever. We were at the country, my wife and I applauded while I started to overtake Walter Hagen liquor. Walter Hagen liquor caught up with me much faster than when I came up behind Walter. I began to be jittery in the morning. Golf permitted drinking. every day and every night, and it was a fun to carom around this exclusive course which inspired such awe in me as a lad. I had inquired the impeccable coat of a tan one sees out upon the fellow well-to-do. The local banker watched me whirl fat checks in and out of the till with amused skepticism. Abruptly, in October 1929, hell broke loose on the New York Stock Exchange. After one of those days of the inferno, I wobbled at a hotel bar to a brokerage office. It was 8 o'clock, 5 hours after the market closed. The ticker still clattered. I was starting at an inch of tape when it bore the inscription XYZ32. It had been 52 that morning. I was finished, and so were many friends. The papers reported men jumping to death from the towers of the high finance. That disgusted me. I would not jump. I would not go back. I went back to the bar. My friends had dropped several millions since 10 o'clock. So what? Tomorrow was another day. As I drank, the old fierce determination to win came back. Next morning, I telephoned a friend in Montreal. He had plenty of money left, and he thought I had a better go at in. I wobbled from a hotel bar to a brokerage office. It was 8 o'clock. 5 hours after the market closed, the ticker still clattered. I was staring at an inch of the tape which bore the inscription XYZ32. It had been 52 that morning. I had finished, so were many friends. The papers reported men jumping to their deaths from the towers of high finance. That disgusted me. I would not jump. I went back to the bar. My friends and I dropped several million since 10 o'clock. So what? Tomorrow was another day. As I drank, the old fierce determination to win came back. Next morning, I telephoned a friend in Montreal. He had plenty of money left and thought I had better go to Canada. By the following spring, we were living in an accustomed lifestyle. I felt like Napoleon returning from Elba. No, St. Helena for me. But drinking caught up with me again, and my generous friend had to let me go. This time we stayed broke. We went to live with my parents. I found a job. We lost it as the result of a brawl with the taxi driver. Mercifully, no one could guess that I was to have no real employment for 5 years, or hardly draw a sober breath. My wife began to work at a department store, coming home exhausted to find me drunk. I became an unwelcome hanger-on at brokerage places. Liquor ceased to be a luxury. It became a necessity. Bathtub gin, 2 bottles a day and often 3. Gotta be routine. Sometimes small deal would net a few $100s and I would pay my bills at the bar and dietitians. This went on endlessly, and I began to waken very early in the morning, shaken violently. A tumbler full of gin followed by a half-dozen bottles of beer would be required if I still were to eat any breakfast. Nevertheless, I still thought control to this situation, and there were periods of sobriety which renewed my wife's hope. Gradually, things got worse. The house was taken over by a mortgage holder. My mother-in-law died, and my father-in-law became ill. Then I got a promising business opportunity. Stocks were at the low point of 1932, and I had somehow formed a group to buy. I was to share generously in their profits. Then I went on a prestigious bender, and that chance vanished. I woke up. This had to be stopped. I saw what I could take in, not so much as one drink. I was through forever. Before then, I had written lots of sweet promises, but my wife happily observed at this time. I meant business, and so did I. So he meant what he said, but unfortunately, it's the alcohol that'll take over. Shortly afterward, I came home drunk. There had been no fight. Where had been my high resolve? I simply didn't know. It hadn't even come to my mind. Someone had pushed a drink my way, and I hadn't taken it. Was I crazy? I began to wonder. And I had taken it. Was I crazy? I began to wonder, for such an appalling lack of perspective seemed near being just that. Renewing my resolve, I tried again. Sometimes past and confidence began to be replaced by cockiness. I could laugh at the gin mills. Now I had what it takes. One day I walked into a cafe to telephone. In no time I was beating on the bar, asking myself, how did this happen? As the whiskey rose to my head, and I told myself I would manage better next time, but I might as well get a good drunk then, and I did. The remorse, horror, and hopelessness of the next morning are unforgettable. The courage to do battle was not there. My brain raced uncontrollably, and there was a terrible sense of impending commodity. I hardly dared cross the street lest I collapse and be run down by an early morning truck, for it was scarcely daylight. An all-night play supplied me with a dozen glasses of ale. My breathing nerves were stilled at last. A morning paper told me that the market had gone to hell again. Well, so had I. The market would recover, but I wouldn't. This was a hard thought. Should I kill myself? No, not now. Then a mental fog settled down. Gin would fix that, so 2 bottles and oblivion. The mind and body are marvelous mechanisms, for mine endured this agony 2 more years. Sometimes I stole from my wife's slender purse in the morning. Terror and madness were in me. Again I swayed dizzily before the open window or the medicine cabinet where there lay the poison, cursing myself for a weakling. There were flights from city to country and back, and as my wife and I sought escape, then came the night when my physical and mental torture was so hellish I feared I would burst out my window sash and all. Somehow I managed to drag my mattress to a lower floor, lest I suddenly leap. A doctor came with a heavy sedative next day, found me drinking both gin and sedative. This combination soon landed me on the rocks. People feared for my sanity, so did I. I could eat little or nothing when I was drinking, and I was 40 pounds underweight. My brother-in-law is a physician, and through his kindness and that of my mother, I was placed in a nationally known hospital for the mental and physical rehabilitation of alcoholics. Under the so-called belladonna treatment, my brain cleared. Hydrotherapy and mild exercise helped much. Best of all, I met a kind doctor who explained to me through, though certain selfish and foolish, I had been seriously ill, bodily and mentally. It relieved me somewhat to learn that in alcoholics that will is amazingly weakened when it comes to combating liquor to remain strong in other respects. My incredible behavior in the face of a desperate desire to stop and explained, understanding myself for now. I fared forth in high hope. For 3 or 4 months the goose hung high. I went sure regularly, and I even made a little money. Surely this was the answer, self-knowledge. But it was not, for the frightful day came when I was drunk once more. The curve of my declining moral and bodily health fell off like a ski jump. After a time I returned to the hospital. This was the finish, the curtain, it seemed to me. My weary and despairing wife was informed that it would be the end with heart failure, and during delirium tremens, which is the shakes I've went through the shakes myself many times, and it's just like having pure electricity around you. It's a terrible feeling. You're just shaking. Your brain isn't there. It's like everything's leaving, but you're still trying to hold it together, and that's how the DTs for me came, and I've suffered the DTs. Well, probably over 100 times, and I've had to do a lot of bad things to get out of the DT. So, this is where this addiction that's in this book, and trust me, when people say, "Oh, they should get this person off the street," he or she should get a job or whatever. I think that the real thing is they need more mental stimulation, because some of the smartest people that I've ever met live on the street. They hustle on the street. They do what they got to do to survive on the street because it's more of a challenge than always going by the book. So the more artistic type and the one that thinks outside the box might be the one living on the street and shunning, and then you're turning a high nose up at them when in reality, they're cunning and decisive. They just need more mental stimulation, more ability to explore and be out of the borders of regular society, so to speak, right? So I'm not saying, they should be on a free-for-all. I'm just saying just be of good moral ethics and just be of good nature. And just, I'm not saying, like, even if people can handle a drink, they can have a drink. I mean, this is just for my own personal reference and for other people if they want to take from this library, but it's just me telling it. But I think that is one of the main keys of actually sobering up and then reducing the homeless population is actually giving these people more mental stimulation, like myself, more mental stimulation. I mean, we love to work. And whether you're inside a warm place or outside in a cold place, you're going to have to be keeping yourself warm somehow. So you got to work. Like I'm working right now telling you guys this story, Bill's story in AA, and or I'd be out there, trying to find pop bottles or trying to stay warm, whatever the case may be, right? So this goes both ways, and it's hard work no matter where you're at. I mean, it gets easier because I've been on both sides of the fence many of times. And this, I've had my 9 lives. It's cat 9 lives, whatever. It doesn't matter, like sort of thing, right? But this is where it's at when it really comes down to the person itself. I think that they really need a lot of mental stimulation, and especially those who are drug addicts and alcoholics, because there's the small 10% of the population that really I mean, look at how hard they fight to get drugs. Look at how hard they fight to get alcohol. Look at how hard they fight to get whatever they need, right? So, and when you put these people into a small pen, like on the streets or whatever, they're gonna do whatever they can to get through there, no problem. And the same thrill of a millionaire losing $100 million is the same thrill to a person on the streets picking up 100 pop bottles, taking them back to the store to pick up a 40 ounce of OE. It's the same. It's the same. You're getting the same it's not syrup. It's not sure the chemical name, but you're getting the same release of endorphins, right? So it's just another stepping stone. So it's just both sides of the fence. You got to weigh it out, right? And you got to find your peace in the middle of have that equilibrium of creativity and just a good honest intent in your heart to try to do the right thing, and the rest will just fall into place so elegantly and so naturally, right? So I'm just letting you guys know from my experience, right? This is where I'm coming into drawing my points into this book. So I hope it helps others to kind of see a little bit of some of what my eyes see when I go outside and, just go pick up some groceries or whatever. I've been sober for 8 days now, so I'm not one to talk, but I have been sober and I will remain sober the rest of my life until I die. I can promise you that much, because I have that fight in me to stay sober, the same fight that the people on the streets have to find drugs, the same fight that people have that have a job where they just do repetitive tasks that they know are meaningless. That fight to say, I'm going to get out of here one day, but they just keep coming back. So that's the fight. So you got to find the dividing line between fight or flight. And that's where a lot of people might still be at that line, and a lot of people might be past that finish line. And that's where I took from my experience, which I kept all my memories that I've had for the last 39 years of my life. I've had those memories, and I'm just bringing them back up just to remind everybody how serious alcoholism and drug addiction can really be. We've lost a lot of good people to this, and a lot of people wouldn't come back with their memories like I did. A lot of people are in a better place. A lot of people are still on a stepping stone, and this is where I'm at right now. So, and I mean, I'm not saying it's a good place, I'm not saying it's a bad place, but it's still at an equilibrium, right? So, I mean, at some point, you're going to tip the scales, but the best thing to do is just ride out and be fair and kind deeds don't go unnoticed. Trust me. The man upstairs, or whoever you want to call it upstairs, is always watching kind deeds, and kindness is king over everything right now. Just to be kind to your fellow man, right? So I'm just going to keep going through this here. It relieved me somewhat to learn that in an alcoholics, the will is amazingly weakened when it comes to combating liquor, though it often remains strong in other respects. My incredible behavior in the face of a desperate desire to stop was explained. Understanding myself now, I fared forth in high hope. For 3 or 4 months, the goose hung high. I went to town regularly and even made a little money. Surely this was the answer, self-knowledge, but it was not. For the frightful day came when I drank once more. The curve of my declining moral and bodily health fell off like a ski jump. After a time, I returned to the hospital. This was the finish, the curtain, it seemed to me. My weary and despairing wife was informed that it would be the end with heart failure during delirium tremens, which I just touched on. Or I would start to develop a wet brain, perhaps within a year. She would soon have to give me over to the undertaker of the asylum. They did not need to tell me. I knew and almost welcomed the idea. It was a devastating blow to my pride. I, who had thought so well of myself and my abilities, of my capacity to surmount obstacles, was concerned at last. Now I was plunged into the dark, joining the endless procession of sots who had gone on before. I thought, my poor wife, there had not been that much happiness after all. What would I not give to make amends? But that was over now. No words can tell of the loneliness and despair I found in the bitter morass of self-pity. Quicksand stretched around me in all directions. I had met my match. I had been overwhelmed. Alcohol was my master. Trembling, I stepped from the hospital, a broken man. Fear sobered me for a bit. Then came the insidious insanity of the first drink. And on Armistice Day, 1934, I was off again. Everyone became resigned to the certainty that I have to be shut up somehow, somewhere, or I would stumble along to a miserable end. How dark is it before the dawn? In reality, that was the beginning of my last debauch. I was soon to be catapulted into what I like to call the fourth dimension of existence. I was to know happiness, peace, and usefulness in a way of life that is incredibly more wonderful as time passes. So that would apply to me being on my 8 days sober and kind of getting catapulted into this fourth dimension of existence. Fourth dimension where I'm more or less just observing it. I'm not trying to overdo myself or kill myself. I got nothing to prove. I'm just here to give young people or older people, whoever's struggling with an addiction problem, just a little bit of backup to Bill's story. This is Heath's story, and the stories that will become, more and more people will come forth with their story, and we'll find hospice in one another, I think is the word for it. But I believe that's the main attraction here, is just to find hospice and just to find confide in one another with these problems and issues, and just really see a transparency where we don't have to cover up our feelings or emotions or hide behind an ego or pride or anything like that. We can really join together and use all of this experience in a big, let's call it a gumbo of experiences, and that'll definitely bring a lot more peace and a lot more clarity to earth right now, because we're on the brink of, everybody's still, up in the air about what's going on right now. And the way that I see it is, every person that I see is a real person. There is not one fake person out there. Every person that I see in my eyes and I take time to talk to, or you take time to talk to, or anybody in this entire world takes time to talk to, is going to be one of those people that you treasure for the rest of your life, and one of those people that will mean something to you for the rest of your life. You will have that bond. We are at the spot where you will have that bond. So what you put into this earth, whether it be picking up a piece of garbage off the street, or taking the time to talk to a homeless person, or pitching in at whatever the case may be. And I'm not one to talk because I'm not perfect by any means. I'm 8 days sober. This is me. I'm clean. I'm clean and dry. And even though I lapsed with almost little to no alcohol, maybe 7 or 8 beers I think I had over the course of two lapses, over the course of about a 2-week period. And it didn't take me much. It was just that one sip, and then boom. So this is just my story of telling it, so other people can learn from this, because I'm no prized gem at telling my story, but I do know how fast a trigger can get set off in a person's brain to just go 100, right? So it's just, alcohol is one of those things that's really, you really have to be careful with. It's like running around with a loaded gun, pointing it at everyone. It's the same. You get the same motion, narrative in your brain. So it's so important to not pick up that first drink. And this is just me just stating this, and then people can take what they want from it, right? And this is just building a moral ground for man to stand on, because I've been around a little while. 39 years is what I remember, right? But I'm sure I could be regressed into past lives and all kinds of stuff like that before this, right? Which I kind of seen when I was on the third plane of existence. But you're on the outside, you're on the inside of that membrane. You become stagnant in life. You're not helping. You're not doing anything bad. You're not helping. You're not doing anything good. You're just there. You're just fulfilling your own little self-worth purpose. But when I found that little self-worth purpose while I was sober, and I would promise myself that I would deliver myself to sobriety before I found that self-purpose, that self-worth purpose. And I did manage to find my sobriety, and I had that moment where the light just shines on you, and you say to yourself, this is it. You found it. You made it to the top of the hill. You were at peace with your maker, whatever you want to call your creator is. It can be God. I remember I was at a detox facility a long time ago that I was in over 100 times, and I'd like to apologize, not 100 times, but like maybe 30 times, maybe I would say close to that. And the person used to say, your higher power can be whatever. You can name your higher power Beyonce and dance all around it. It doesn't matter what your higher power is, but you have to believe in, because what you believe is what you will achieve, right? And this is coming from just a regular person like myself, just giving you guys the best take on this that I can. So I'm just going to get back to Bill's story, and then we're just going to keep going through, and I'm just going to keep adding a little bit of my own personal insight into this. And this is my first time doing this, so don't be, don't come at me with your guns blazing. Just maybe come with some, helpful suggestions at first, or come at me fourth dimension or whatever they want to call it. Now, I'm not saying either is better, right? It's like they say, ignorance is bliss. But once you know, and you've been, catapulted to that from a horrific experience, and it takes a lot of trauma to get to that, whatever that next sort of level of just trying to be of service to God and try to be of service. I say God just because I say God, and God is my higher power. And if I say Jesus Christ, I say Jesus Christ as a figurehead of what I try to portray in my heart is, and I just say, but your Jesus Christ can be, whatever you want to call Jesus Christ can be the Terminator. It doesn't matter. This is just the way that it goes. I was just looking at my Terminator poster over there, but it doesn't matter what your higher power is, but you have to have faith in it, and you have to know that if you think of it, it will be achieved, and you just got to send that out there from the heart. You just got to send that vibe out there from the heart. We're at the time now where we do have this world. We do have this world. So I don't know how many more pages I got here. Far too many. Well, I'm going to try to finish this. Okay, so, and I won't I'll try to end on a good part for people, and then I'll try to throw in a little bit of the Bible after this one. So I'll have a bit of both, right? So we're just putting the groundwork in right now. We're reading Bill's story, the groundwork. So we started off, well, you guys can read this for yourself. I'm just doing this, but I hope this helps some people out sometimes. Near the end of a bleak November, I sat drinking in my kitchen with the Near the end of that bleak November, I sat drinking in my kitchen with a certain satisfaction. I reflected there was enough gin concealed about the house to carry me through that night and on to the next day. My wife was at work. I wondered whether I dared hide a full bottle of gin near the head of our bed. I would need it before daylight. My musing was interrupted by the telephone. The cheery voice of an old friend asked if he might come over. He was sober. It was years since I could remember him coming to New York in that condition. I was amazed. Rumor had it that he had been committed for alcoholic insanity. I wonder how he had escaped. Of course, he would have dinner, and then could drink openly with him, unmindful of his welfare. I thought only of my recapturing of the spirit of other days, which means drinking with old friends. And this is a little bit outdated, the way that he talks. That's it. It's also kind of where I'm going to come in with my dialogue and pick up with some of my more, modern words, I guess you could say, or call them, right? Either or, right? Okay, so the door opened and he stood there, fresh-skinned and glowing. There was something about his eyes. He was inexplicably different. What had happened? I pushed a drink across the table. He refused it. Disappointed but curious, I wondered what he had gotten into the fellow. He wasn't himself. Come, what's all this about? I queried. He looked straight at me, simply but smilingly. He said, I've got religion. I was aghast. So that was it last summer, an alcoholic crackpot. Now I suspected a little cracked about religion. He had that starry-eyed look. Yes, the old boy was on fire all right, but bless his heart, let him rant. Besides, my gin would no longer last in his preaching. But he did no ranting. In a matter-of-fact way, he told me how two men... In a matter-of-fact way, he told me how two men had appeared in court persuading the judge to suspend his commitment. They had told him of a simple religious idea and a practical program of action. That was 2 months ago, and the result was self-evident. It worked. He had come to pass his experience along to me. I cared to have it. I was shocked, but interested. Certainly I was interested. I had to be, for I was hopeless. He talked for hours. Childhood memories rose before me. I could almost hear the sounds of preachers' voices as I sat. On still Sundays, way over there on the hillside, there was a preferred temperature. There was a preferred temperature pledge I never signed. My grandfather's good-natured contempt of some church folk and their doings. His insistence of the spirits really had their music, but his denial of the preacher's right to tell him how he must listen, his fearlessness as he spoke of these things just before he died. These recollections welled up from the past. They made me swallow hard. That wartime day in old Winchester Cathedral came back again. I had always believed in a power greater than myself. I had often pondered these ideas and was not an atheist. Few people really are, for that means blind faith. In the strange proposition that the universe originated in a cipher and aimlessly rushes nowhere. My intellectual heroes, the chemists, the astronomers, even the evolutionists suggested vast laws and forces at work. Despite contrary indications, I had little doubt that a mighty purpose and rhythm underlay all. A mighty purpose and rhythm. So when Bill says this in 1932, or I'm not exactly sure what the book was read. So what he says is a movement and a rhythm of life. So you got to think about that for a second. So we're bringing the new tempo, the new pitch of life, the new tempo, the new rhythm of life. Now we can make that rhythm stop, go, stop, go, stop, go, stop, go, sort of thing, or we can keep it nice and smooth. All right, so Okay, so just getting this done here. So basically, I think I'm gonna leave it off there for tonight. That's page number 10 on the big book. So, and I guess I'll just touch on the rhythm of life a little bit. It just means, to me, it just means to tread lightly on the earth. Do to the earth like you would do to your own body, to your own neighbor, to your own anything. Just be kind and be nice. And like, I'm not trying to be like a preacher or anything like that, but that's just the whole thing, to keep the rhythm flowing. We want to hear beautiful music. We want to see beautiful art. We want to see beautiful architecture, and that's all just a matter of just keeping a nice, calm, good rhythm going with everybody. No animosity, just a good, clean rhythm, and we'll make that rhythm dance so beautifully. And I'm telling you, it is. I envision a better future for everybody. I really do, and I really hope that anybody that sees it. I'm still trembling. You still hear me shaking in my voice because of alcoholism. I'm sober. I'm 8 days sober. Let's say 7 days sober now. So 1 week sober. So, and that's only from a relapse of drinking maybe 15 drinks over it. It's barely touching alcohol, but I used to drink, I used to be known for drinking 35 beers a day minimum. So, I've drank and then staying up for 3 weeks straight drinking 35 beers and doing Lord knows what else, right? So this is how serious this condition is for a lot of people, and that goes with any addiction of overindulgence. Even me doing these videos, that's why I'm just going to take about a couple hours out of my day to put these videos up and edit them out as fast as I can, and then I'm getting off the screens and I'm going out to explore in the world with no cameras. So that's the beauty of it all, right? We're working in with the regular scope of things, with the internet and the way that it's running now, and then we're just working in this little bit of inspiration for the for the lass, I guess you could say, that might have a problem with addiction or substance or alcohol or whatever. Because it's people say there's some hardcore guys that are, oh, I'm only AA, or oh, I'm only NA, and I'm a newcomer to the program. I mean, I've been in and out of the program since I was a child with Al-Anon, right? So I mean, even when I remember my first Al-Anon meeting, I was like 10 years old or something like that, maybe 11, when they brought me in and they said, oh, this, that, the next thing about drinking. So I didn't know what to think of it all then. I just thought that, the folks are happy, right? And that's, my folks are happy. They're having a good time, but that good time would always come to a crashing halt, because you can only have a good time for so long when you're drinking, when you get two fires brewing off the same, beverage, so to speak, right? And this is just me explaining in the best plain English that I can. This isn't for everyone, so to speak, right? So I think that's exactly where I'm going to leave it off today. So this is page 10 of AA Big Book, and this one is, I'm just going to give you guys, this is the 4th edition. Alcoholics Anonymous, the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism, 4th edition. And this is printed, Alcoholics Anonymous, World Services Inc., New York City, 2001. So that's what now? I don't know. I'm not going to try to do the math right now, because, like I said, I'm still not fully clear-headed, but I just feel like this is the best thing to keep me sober right now. So even if it's only me that watches this video, I still have good faith knowing that I'm making my progress and taking these steps to try to keep me in the right direction of going. And hopefully somebody else out there is suffering a drinking problem, that we can kind of band together and bring, try to extinguish some of the fires that's happening out there, because I know alcohol is a really, really bad, it can be a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. And this time, I've said it once, I've said it before, but this time I feel like it's, next time I go off the wagon, there won't be no heat coming back from the dead again. This time, I truly do, and I testify to this. I got a second chance. I would say this is my 3rd chance now. This is the lucky one. This is the final break for heat. So if I die on my next bender, then you won't see this face or me or hear my voice anymore. But I know in my heart of hearts that I will be sober until the next time, and I'm giving myself about 10, at least another 10 years, and I'll touch back then. But that's my pledge to myself today, that I, stay sober for 10 more years at least, continuous sobriety, and I know that I won't break that pledge. And if I do break that pledge, there will be no more Heath MacArthur. I promise you that. You will not have to hear me trying to preach to you or preach to myself in the future, or wherever the heck I am in the universe, where that's all wrapped up. Wherever anybody is in the universe is when this is wrapped up, because who knows where the sky's the limit here, right? So we just got to kind of go off of what we know and go off of anything. And I'm just telling, this is just, my own personal little diary, right? So people can take it or leave it, just take some knowledge from it. I'm not going to overemphasize. I would say, these are just ideas. Ideas are the foundation and the building blocks of a better way of living life, where we can all kind of be at peace with one another and not have so much animosity and so much, I'm trying to think of the word, but I would say friction, so much, tiptoeing around little issues and stuff like that. We can speak freely without shaking in our voices, and you just say what's on your mind, and nobody will get offended over anything. And I know that time will come soon, but we still got a rough patch until, at least I would say, for the next little while here, right? So I'm just going to keep in touch with you guys over this, and then after that, there's no more internet, no more media. I'm just going outside and working out and just getting away from everything, and whatever it takes. But I would say that the best thing to do is don't entertain yourself with fear porn, because fear porn is going to get you nowhere. It's just a dirty fucking thing. It's just another dirty trick. And this is just me. I'm reading this book before I even dive into the internet. I don't even plan on diving into the internet. I'm reading this book and the Bible on a fresh brain, let's say, because you need a fresh brain that doesn't have ideas already pre-programmed into it to go join a side or join a party. I'm not joining fuck all. I'm just giving you heat, and heat's all you're going to get. You're going to get music and me telling my big book story, and you might get bored and say this sucks, and I don't care if it, well, I do. I care if you have a problem, and I hope that you find the right resolution to your problem, but I don't care if you like it, getting my dose of whatever I'm giving you, my testament. If it helps you, that's great. If it doesn't help you, that's fine too. Just, there's other places to get information on suffering from addiction, or there's other resources. This is just one resource. There's numerous out there. There's numerous, so you can go to anywhere to get help with this disease, right? So, and know that you're not the only person that suffers from it. There is a lot of people out there right now that are suffering from alcohol and suffering from drugs and suffering from family death, and just generations and generations and generations of just complete chaos. And it's finally going to come to a screeching halt. And we're going to get some disclosure on how this has all been played out for us over the years, and people that are still suffering from that. I feel for you all in my heart. I truly do. And I don't know, fuck, I don't know. I just hope that, tomorrow when I come on, the shakiness is out of my voice, and everybody can kind of see how I'm going to light up again, start getting bright, and start seeing cheeriness come back into my eyes, because I'm still suffering from this disease. This is what even after 7 days of sobriety and only having 15 spirits in a 3-day period, 15 drinks, maybe, give or take. That was it. I tried once. I got the call. I threw them in the garbage can after I drank 5 beers. Threw them in the garbage can. Went to sleep. And that was it. And then I woke up and I couldn't even fight off the shakes of 5 beers. And that's after being 4.5, 5 years sober. I couldn't even fight off the shakes of just 5 beers. I had to go run right out to the liquor store to get the demons out of you. But now I'm sober here, and I won't give up on these videos. So I promise you guys, I promise myself that this is gonna be at least a 10-year period of sobriety for me. And I don't say I'm never gonna drink again, because I'm an alcoholic. Every day is a day. Every day sober is a day that we cherish to the most. And trust me, it's I'm just giving my message. I'm not gloating, but I've drank a lot in my life, a lot, and I've seen a lot of drinking, and I've seen a lot of addiction, and I've seen the bad part of it firsthand, and I know a lot of other people have too. So this is just me getting my story out, but there might be young people that might take from this. There might be old people that take from this, because this is more or less a new version of this. So and you might not even want to watch this part of this because I'm just rambling, but it doesn't matter. So this is dated 2001. So this is the newest edition of, I believe, of the Alcoholics Anonymous. And this is going to be me teaching it with my practical experience with alcohol and with substance abuse that came with the alcohol, and all the other bad things that come with alcohol. And this is even going to go into the fact of how there's so many people that are brilliant geniuses living on the streets and living in poverty because they just don't want to be within that little confined box. So, the rich man can walk by and say, why doesn't he just get a job? Because that rich man that, just been walking in squares in a box can't see the big circle of knowledge from the man that's living on the street, because he has that cunning eagerness to survive and live in that circle, to live. And that man that's just been walking in a box is just a programmed man that says, why doesn't he just get a job? Or something like that, right? But I'm just giving it to you with a little bit of, my own little mix here. And, I've made peace with my maker again to come through this time loud and clear with the message. I'm just staying sober. That's it. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, everybody. And we're going to close it off with the big book tonight. And then I'm also going to read a little bit of the New Testament. I'll put this on here now while I'm fresh too. So this is the New Testament in 4 versions. So like I was saying earlier, I've never read a Bible. I've never read a Bible back to back. I haven't. So I don't consider myself an overly religious man. I don't consider myself I know I have a higher power. I know each and every one of you have a higher power. I know that for a fact. I want to see these lights shine. I want to see people light up and say, God, that's a good idea. Or whoever, whatever you want to believe in it. But there is a higher power, and there is forces of work at nature that want to see the world a better place to live in. And that is the God honest truth. So I'm going to give you, so I wrote this one and dated it. People can see that. November 23rd. Today I bought the book for $25 is what I paid for it, which is not a bad price. That's a fair price. You see, things are a fair price right now. Everything's at a complete fair world. We're living in a fair world right now, so it's an open plane for exploration. And that's what I'm trying to encourage people. Do what your heart desires. Get out there and explore, because this is what the world is all about. Not the bullshit that we're so used to. Let's get off of that stuff. For crying in the rain with Jehovah. Okay, so the New Testament of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And like I said, if the day comes for everybody where they're going to run into their higher power. And like I said before, if you want to say it's Jesus Christ, that's how I found my higher power, was Jesus Christ. I watched the fucking, pardon my language, I'm just going to swear. I watched the movie on YouTube about Jesus Christ, and I kind of thought he was an arrogant guy in that movie. But then I realized that was just one portrayal of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ has many stories, but that's just where I found my own personal Jesus Christ. And everybody has the Jesus Christ spirit living in them. Every single person living on earth has Jesus Christ, or whoever they want to call their Jesus Christ living in them. But Jesus Christ is the ultimate authority when it comes to planet Earth, and there's many planets out there. So, but this is the new Earth this is going to be the new Earth with Jesus Christ. And everybody's saying we got to go back to the big book. We got to explore the Bible again. All the guys, take it from Joe Rogan, take it from, who's the other fucking guy? Jordan Peterson, whoever. Everybody knows that this Queen Elizabeth even knows that the foundation, the bedrock is the Bible. And I'm not a preacher, and I've never even read this thing, so I'm going to learn with you guys. So this is going to be a cool thing. Maybe not, I don't know. Just kidding. No, it's going to be cool. Okay, so I'm just going to go through Christianity Today forward. So, and like I said, I don't affiliate with any specific religion. This is just the foundation, right? So this is where I'm going to put my own perspective on the foundation book that was been written and retranslated and all kinds of things and messed with over the years. So I don't even know. That's why that's one of the reasons why I never read a Bible back to back, was because so many misinterpretations, so many misread translations, but I think I can come in and give a fresh insight to the Bible, which is what we need, and somebody to just really sort of go through it. So let's give this a shot real quick here. Okay, so this is part 2. So I'm going to chop here and then give you guys part 2.